All right, let's dive into one of the biggest questions humanity has ever asked. And we're going to tackle it by looking at two fields you'd probably never think to connect, ancient theology and modern cosmology. And you'll be pretty surprised to see where they both end up. I mean, really think about it for a second. Has the universe just always been here? And is it going to be here forever? These are the kinds of questions that have kept people up at night for thousands of years, from philosophers to physicists, all of them just trying to understand our place in this whole thing. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with what theologians had to say, and then we'll see how modern scientists, centuries later, kind of echoed their conclusions. From there, we'll explore this cool idea of reading the universe, and then wrap up with what all of this might mean for us. Okay, so our journey begins way back, centuries ago, with this group of incredibly sharp Islamic theologians. They were called the Kalam scholars, and they basically dedicated their lives to building a rock-solid logical case to answer this exact question. For these scholars, you just couldn't understand anything about the universe unless you first understood its origin, what they called mebde, and its ultimate end, or mayad. This wasn't just some side project for them, it was the absolute heart of their entire worldview. And here's the thing. Their main tool wasn't a telescope or a lab. It was pure hard logic. Their central argument, the Huduth proof, is actually beautifully simple. It goes like this. Everything we see around us has a beginning, right? So doesn't it just make sense that the universe as a whole must have had a beginning too? They argued you just can't have an infinite chain of events stretching back forever. Logically, something had to get the ball rolling. Now, this was a huge deal at the time. It flew right in the face of what many philosophers were arguing, that the universe was eternal, that it had always existed, no start, no finish. The Kalam scholars came along and said, nope, the universe was created, and it was created from absolutely nothing. And once they established that the universe had a beginning, they just followed the logic. They asked, okay, what must the cause of that beginning be like? Well, it couldn't have a beginning itself, so it had to be a necessary being. It had to be powerful enough to create everything from nothing, smart enough to design it all, and it had to have the free will to actually choose to create it. Okay, now let's hit the fast forward button and jump to the 20th century, because this is where the story gets really wild. Centuries after the Kalam scholars made their case with logic, scientists, with their powerful new tools, started to find actual physical evidence that pointed to, you guessed it, a remarkably similar conclusion. You know, it really started with Einstein. His own equations suggested that space and time weren't just a static stage. Then Edwin Hubble looks through his telescope and realizes, whoa, galaxies are flying away from each other. The universe is expanding. And if you rewind that expansion, it means everything must have started from a single super hot, super dense point. The final nail in the coffin was the discovery of this faint glow all over the sky, the cosmic microwave background, which is literally the leftover heat from that initial explosion. So the bottom line is pretty clear. The Big Bang theory, which is backed by a mountain of evidence, confirmed it. Our universe had a definite beginning. That old idea of a timeless, eternal cosmos? Yeah, science pretty much put that one to rest. But a beginning? That's only half the story. It turns out science also pointed toward an end. This idea comes from a fundamental law of physics, the Second Law of Thermodynamics. It basically says that in a closed system, like our universe, things tend to go from a state of order to disorder. Scientists have a name for this measure of disorder. They call it entropy. Think of it like this. You pour a hot cup of coffee. What happens? Over time, the heat spreads out into the room until the coffee is the same temperature as the air. It reaches a state of balance, or maximum entropy. Well, if the universe had been around forever, it would have done the same thing. It would have reached a heat death where everything is uniform and nothing interesting can happen. The very fact that stars are still burning and we're here to talk about it is proof positive that the universe can't be infinitely old. And here's where it all just comes together so beautifully. On one side, you've got these ancient theologians using logic to say there must be a beginning, a mebde, and an end, a me'ad. And on the other side, centuries later, you've got scientists using telescopes and mathematics to land on the Big Bang and entropy. Two totally different paths from two totally different eras leading to the exact same mind-blowing conclusion. Our universe is finite. So this parallel, it's just incredible. And it kind of forces us to ask a totally new kind of question. If the universe isn't just some random, eternal machine that's always been here, then how are we supposed to look at it?
What does it all mean?
A scholar named Saeed Nursi offered this really powerful way of thinking about it. He said, what if we see the universe not just as a bunch of random matter, but as a giant mirror, where every single thing in it, from a planet to a particle, is reflecting some quality of its creator? This basically gives us two ways of seeing the world. The first way he called nominal meaning. That's just looking at things. You see a star, and it's just a ball of gas. That's it. But the second way is the adverbial meaning. That's where you learn to look through things. Now the star is no longer just a ball of gas. It's a sign, a pointer to something beyond itself, a deeper reality. And once you start to see the world that way, everything changes. The intricate laws of physics, that's not just random chance. It's a display of profound wisdom. The perfect balance of the cosmos, that's not just a lucky coincidence. It's a sign of incredible measure. You start to see the universe as this grand palace, adorned with unbelievable beauty everywhere you look, from the smallest flower to the largest galaxy.
Okay, so after this whirlwind tour through centuries of thought, from theology to cosmology, what's the big takeaway here?
First, I think we just have to appreciate how amazing it is that these two completely different approaches, one based on pure reason, the other on physical evidence, both arrived at the same conclusion, that the universe is not eternal. That's a profound moment in human thought. And second, and maybe this is the most important part, this shared conclusion does something really powerful. It takes us beyond just asking how the universe works and invites us, almost dares us, to ask why it exists at all. It opens the door to the possibility of a universe filled with meaning and purpose. So we'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. If the universe really is a kind of meaningful book, a grand work of art, what story is it telling you? Now that's a question worth thinking about.